Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. New skyradio.com.
What are the differences between paranormal research in North America and in Europe? What are all those gadgets ghost hunters haul around actually supposed to do? And ultimately, do ghosts cause paranormal phenomena, or do we?
Well, hey there, and welcome to the 155th. 55th. That's pretty nuts. Broadcast of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. I'm Ben, and that voice you just heard was that of my co-host and partner in the paranormal, my dad.
Not yet disembodied. Now I have to tell you that our interview tonight was pre-recorded because of the 6-hour time difference between here and Denmark, where our guest lives. So obviously he won't be able to take live questions tonight, but you can always contact him through his website, which I'll give you in a minute. And so, a number of people wrote in before the show to ask questions, and I was able to send them to him via email, and he was able to answer at least one of them. So Shane is kind of going to be with us in the spirit tonight, if you'll pardon the pun. Shane Eno is the founder of the Danish Paranormal Society and the Paranormal Institute of Denmark. He has been a paranormal investigator for over 10 years, and as far as we know, he's not related to us, obviously. A strange enough name.
Somewhere he's related to us.
So, yeah, we go back far enough. We're all related.
Yes.
Shane and his group are most active in Denmark and Sweden, and they have developed a reputation that places them among the most respected ghost researchers in Europe. I've found them to be systematic, very careful in their procedures, clear in their reasoning, not quite up to the multiverse theories, but most people aren't, and most of all, not afraid to consider new ideas, or as the cliche goes, to think outside the box. That's all the more important because paranormal research in Europe right now is rather different than it is in North America. There isn't as much public interest, there is more skepticism, and the airwaves aren't full of pop ghost hunters. Shane's website is www.paranormalt.dk. I'll spell that. www.paranormalt.dk. All right.
And, of course, you can always call in and talk to us. Our numbers, again, are 248-545-7685 or 248-545-SOUL, which is pretty much the exact same thing I said, just in a cooler way. Or if you're listening on a computer, use the instant feedback feature to the right of your screen as you listen live. But as we said before, we are doing a pre-recorded half or whatever.
Well, people can always ask us questions anyway.
Yeah.
And I've talked a lot with Shane off the air and stuff, and I can't answer for him, but I might be able to certainly answer some questions related to what they do.
You could try.
Okay. Well, producer Will, if you would roll the, I'm not going to say tape, but whatever the interview is, let's roll that and hear what Shane has to say.
Oh yeah, I'm ready. How's the sound at your end? Is it okay?
Sounds very good. How about you?
Okay, yeah, pretty good here too.
Okay, yeah. There's a little bit of.
I'm ready.
Okay, all right. So let's. It's been a long time since you've been with us. It's almost a year, I believe, and I wanted to see what you're up to and what your group has been doing. Can you fill us in?
Oh yes. First of all, we have been working a little on our equipment. We found out that when we are out investigating, we needed something bigger than a car to house us. So we have built a camping trailer to tow behind the car that we can use as a sort of command center, where we have our video recorders, our screens where we can watch what's going on, and people have a place where they can come in and relax and have a cup of coffee during the investigations. And then we have been working quite a lot with sound the last year, because it seems like we've tried a lot of different cameras, from infrared, ultraviolet, and thermal cameras, and we still haven't got that kind of evidence that we would like.
Yes.
But it seems like every time that we turn on a sound recorder, we almost every time get some sort of EVPs.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been concentrating a lot on recording sound. We've also tried, that the electric magnetic fields, EMF, is also a very big part of paranormal investigations. And we have found a way to use a cheap magnetic microphone so we can sort of record that EMF as a sound instead of just measuring with an instrument.
Oh, that's interesting.
And we have an old... actually, it used to be the king's castle during the 11th century. And what's left of it now is just a ruin. But at the gates, we do get some EMF spikes. So we tried to see if we could record it, to listen to it, what it would sound like. Because once you get used to listening to these sounds, then you can. It's very easy to, when you listen to the normal 50 hertz cycle we've got here in our electrical outlets in our houses, it's quite of a low hum, and you can also, if you listen to TV sets, for instance, it will give you a very high sound. Mm-hmm. So you can almost determine what you are listening to when you're walking through a house. But at this old castle, we have a very different sound. And once you have it as a sound, then you can put it into a sound program and analyze at what frequency it is. And that's a big advantage, because if you want to buy an instrument that will do this for you, it will cost you maybe several $1,000s. But the way that we can do it, it's not as accurate. But it will show us if it's 200 hertz or if it's 1,000 hertz or whatever frequency it's got.
Okay.
And
first of all, where is this castle?
This castle is quite close to Elsinore. Of course, if you know Hamlet, you know that Hamlet takes place at the castle at Elsinore.
Oh yes.
But this is about 5 miles outside Elsinore, where the king used to live in the 11th century.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And yes.
Quite exciting. We don't have anything like that in New England.
No.
The Massachusetts State House. That's about it. But we have, because you know me, Shane. I take the technology sometimes with a grain of salt. Now, but it is very interesting that you can translate EMFs into sound. I've heard of that being done. Now, what do you hope to prove by doing
that? What we hope to prove is that at this specific castle, there is absolutely no electricity. And therefore, it's very strange to find any EMF at all. Mm-hmm. And when it comes and goes, and it's like you can stay up there for maybe 1 or 2 hours and nothing happens. All of a sudden, it's there and it sort of passes. If you imagine the front gate of what used to be the castle, it's like a guard going back and forth, and it will only occur for maybe, let's say, a few minutes, and then you lose it again. Mm-hmm. And then we wander around all over the castle trying to find it. But it's almost every time that we find it, it would be at the front gate. So if this is a sort of a sign that it's a ghost, then he would be patrolling the front gates.
That's very interesting.
And,
we don't have the luxury of such a pure environment very often here. You know how crowded it is here. The airports are everywhere. There are radar arrays, all sorts of microwaves and things that really will render EMF in many cases next to useless, in my opinion. But what you've described is extremely interesting. So tell us again about your group. You have sort of a large group? Yes,
we have a large group. I know many groups that maybe is made from 5 to 10 people. This season, totally, we are about 25 people. And, of course, it's difficult to take everybody out on one investigation. But sometimes it can be useful to be so many people when we go out on, on the larger places. We have done a prison here. We have done an offshore fort, a sea fortress that is located in the Copenhagen harbor. And in those cases, it's nice when you are maybe 15 to 20 people. It allows us to divide people into groups and assign them to different...
Okay, we're going to pause in our to take a break here, and we'll be right back on Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno on CBS News Sky Radio in just a moment to continue our our pre-recorded conversation with Shane Eno of the Paranormal Institute of Denmark. Stay with us.
CBS Radio's The New Sky. NewSkyRadio.com. Across the Veil with April Lugo.
Join April Lugo each Tuesday night at 7 for Across the Veil. Across the Veil is a show that promises to be a unique experience as April connects and communicates with those who are across the veil. April receives guidance and wisdom from the ancients, angels, masters, teachers, and guides, as well as hearing messages from those who have preceded us across the veil, family, friends, and loved ones alike. The program is an excellent opportunity for you to hear from those who are across the veil. April will be answering questions and giving insight. That's the main reason for the program. Across the Veil at 7 Tuesday on The Sky.
Look up to the sky. Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Reach out. NewSkyRadio.com.
Salvation Army band played, and the children drank lemonade, and the morning lasted all day, and through an open window came, like Sinatra in a younger day, pushing the town away. Laughing
Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. New skyradio.com. Believe.
Hey there, and let's continue our pre-recorded conversation with Shane Eno of the Paranormal Institute of Denmark. Go. Interesting. Because sometimes I've suspected that when you have a very large group, or I've suspected that when I've been with large groups, which hasn't been often, that there can be interference, if you will, in the EM fields created by a large number of people. And I find that it's often better, at least the way I do things, which is very different from the way you do things, to go in with just Ben and myself, or maybe one or two other people. But that's just a matter of how we do things. Now, we had an interesting part of our conversation when you were on last time with us, Shane, about the differences between the attitudes of the general public in North America and the difference between that and the attitude in Europe of people toward the paranormal. For example, you don't have that many paranormal television shows. Or are people becoming more accepting in Europe of the paranormal, or is it as you described before?
I just saw a survey done in a newspaper, and it seems like about 1/3 of the population believes in spirits, ghosts, and so on.
That's all?
And about another third believes in it a little bit, or would not say that it does not exist. Mm-hmm. So, in fact, we have, let's say, around 60% of the population here who can accept the fact that there might be something else than us. And and but I do think that the American and English paranormal shows are reaching us because we have satellite television and so on, and I do get emails from people who have watched these shows from time to time, and I think that when people watch these shows, then they start seeing, ghosts in their own house when there really is nothing.
That's right. Yeah.
We can see an increase in that.
Yes.
But there's another thing also that's a bit strange. In the last year, we have got quite a few emails from people employed by, it could be nurses from a hospital or from a nursing home, or it could be people working different public places where they ask us about what they should do because somebody has seen some sort of apparition in there, or they have different things going on. And often that's it's not that easy to get allowed to go in and investigate this, because there's always someone higher up who does not want to get people in to investigate such a thing as ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
So, but there seems to be some sort of problem in these places. And I guess if you believe in the spirit world and that they come and go and so on, when people are in a nursing home, I mean, that's the last place where they live before they die usually. Mm-hmm. And of course, in such a place, they would be visited by their family spirits. And there's really nothing they can do about it. And then also in these places, they have all sorts of medical equipment that gives off EMF, and it's often very high ratings you get if you try to measure in one of those places.
Oh, yes.
And I guess that's also, that's an energy that can be used if you go by that theory that the spirits of ghosts can use EMF.
Well, that's it. Now you have me thinking about my mother, who's now in a nursing home and was complaining about her television going on and off by itself. She said, I thought I'd better tell you. I don't know, but this is a common. So that was funny that you should mention that. So on the show, as you know my theories, and we have. I'm in the minority. I tend to think ghosts are more than just spirits very often, but the electrical connections, I certainly agree with you on. I think it's very interesting to see, especially EVPs. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Philip Imbrogno, who has been on the show before, and he's coming on again soon to talk about EVPs. He has found that EVPs, when you, I guess, divide, there are two separate, according to him anyway, two separate signals on different levels when you record an EVP. Meaning what, I'm not sure, but he believes, as I do, that we're dealing with parallel worlds here in a physical sense, and that's what it is. Maybe it's something else, I don't know. But have you proceeded as far as that with your EVP research? Have you found different tracks, so to speak, in the recordings?
I would say that what you're talking about is a different frequency level of the recordings.
I'm not entirely familiar with what he's done until he comes on and tells us. But that's my understanding, is that there are two different tracks. But let's change gears here a bit. Frequencies. I'm always hearing about frequencies, and you mentioned frequencies, and it's often referred to by people who come on who are psychics, who are who are dealing with alternate forms of healing and this sort of thing. They refer to frequencies. And I always say, well, frequencies, that implies waves, and the distances between the troughs of the waves and all this business that has to do with frequencies. So do you find the same thing when you are recording things electronically, that different frequencies will be, as you say in the EMF, different frequencies will take place? And if so, what do they mean? In other words, higher frequencies are supposedly more enlightened beings, and lower frequencies not so enlightened. That's the way it's usually been explained to me. Do you find that?
Yes. Yes, we do. We do see different frequencies in it. But what I think about when I talk about frequencies, it's not the same thing as when you have a medium talking about frequencies, because when they talk about frequencies, it's not something that they measure. It's something that they just talk.
Exactly,
and I think that that sound is very interesting, because if you have the right frequency in any object, you can make it levitate. And when we go out to people who claim that all of a sudden something levitated in the house, actually, if you have a lab and you set up some loudspeakers, you can make just almost everything levitate just by hitting that specific frequency that will make this object levitate. Therefore, we know that we have EVPs at different frequencies.
Okay.
If you go into a frequency where we are not able to listen to it, and our ears are not as good as just check a dog or a cat or any animal. They have much further spectrum of frequencies that they can hear. But humans are really we have bad hearing.
We do.
And if we go outside that spectrum that we can hear, in fact, if you go below us, if you go down to, I think it's 19 hertz, there was a study at Coventry University in England where they discovered that they had this big fan up in the ceiling, and it made frequency of 19 hertz. At the same time, everybody was very scared of entering this lab.
The infrasound
so they
problem.
discovered, yes, there was something around 19 hertz that made people afraid to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that it was NASA who found out that at 18 hertz, our eyes will start to wobble. So you're not able to believe what you see if you're exposed to 18 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that our power plants here in Denmark that create heating for our houses, when they clean their turbines, it gives off a sound that is somewhere between 16 and 19 hertz.
Oh my goodness! Not a good time to be in Denmark.
There are people here. No, but I think that this happens all over the world, and I know that there are people here who are so affected by this. It will it will spread for maybe 20 or 30 miles from that power plant.
And people will have paranormal experiences.
Yes, but some people can hear it.
Oh,
and they can hear it as a very low hum in their ears, and they get very affected by it, and they have to move away so they can find a place where they can maybe move out into the woods or something, and in order to escape sound.
Isn't that interesting?
Then if you think about how many people who experience paranormal phenomena, and how many of them live within 30 miles from a power plant, then you have an explanation. Because
fascinating.
You go out to people and you really don't find anything, but they still claim that they experienced something.
Well, that happened in my own house, and I had read about it recently. About it occurred in a British laboratory, and there was a fan producing about 19 hertz, and I got out my trusty EMF meter, and it led me. What happened was our bed was shaking at night, and my wife could sleep through World War II, so she didn't wake up. But I got up and out into the hallway I came, and I could feel the electrical tingle, that you feel. Some people do anyway, in the presence of these whatever, and. Push came to shove. As you know, Shane, one of the benefits of being a paranormal investigator is that you do not expect your own house to be haunted. All right? So I took my own advice. I figured, well, we look at what it could be before we think it's something paranormal. And sure enough, I was led right to my son's aquarium. It had a big fish tank with a pump that was putting out, you guessed it, 19 hertz. And we got rid of the pump. All the phenomena ceased immediately. Now, we couldn't hear the sound, but I was able to measure it enough to realize this is probably what it was. And there's a perfect example of a standing wave, as it's called, as a result of infrasound. So what you describe is very familiar to me. So,
but then you had your bed shaking. And
yes.
And that's interesting because it might be that the frequency of the 19 hertz is exactly what's needed to make your bed or your mattress vibrate.
Yeah, in our case,
and that's a very interesting thought, because when you get calls from people, they will tell you, well, my bed shakes sometimes, my TV turns off and on, and all sorts of things that they have, all sorts of experiences that they have collected, and
so
the first thing you do is try to separate it.
Well, that's it. But this
so you
raises...
can sort of solve the problem.
Okay, we are all set here with that section, and we're going to continue in just a moment with after our break with Shane Eno of the Paranormal Institute of Denmark here on Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno on CBS New Sky Radio. Stay with us.
CBS Radio's The New Sky. NewSkyRadio.com. This is the Lisa J. Smith Show.
So you say you want to be a rock star, so why don't you go ahead and be one? This is Lisa J. Smith. You can listen to me every day at 3 o'clock Eastern. Lisa J. Now, right here at CBS Radio, The Sky.
Look up to the sky. Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Reach out, NewSkyRadio.com.
Well, I was sitting, waiting, wishing you believed in superstitions. Then maybe you'd see the signs. But Lord knows that this world is cruel, and I ain't the Lord, no, I'm just a fool. And loving somebody don't make them love you. Must I always be waiting on you? Must Must I always be playing your fool? I sang your songs, I danced your dance, I gave your friends all a chance. Putting up with them wasn't worth never having you. Oh, maybe you've been through this before, but it's my first time, so please ignore the next few lines, 'cause they're directed at you. I can't always be waiting on you. I can't always be playing your fool. I keep playing your part, but it's not my scene. Want this plot to twist, I've had enough mystery. Keep building it up, but you're shooting me down. But I'm already down, just wait a minute. Just sit and wait it. Just wait a minute. Just sit and wait it. Well, if I was in your position, I'd put down all my ammunition. I'd wonder why it taken me so long. But Lord knows that I'm not you, and if I was, I wouldn't be so cruel, 'cause waiting on love ain't so easy to do. Must I always be waiting on you? Must I always be playing your fool? No, I can always be waiting on you. I can't always be playing your fool.
Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. New skyradio.com.
And we are going to continue our conversation with a pre-recorded conversation with Shane Eno of the Paranormal Institute of Denmark about the situation in Europe regarding paranormal phenomena and some of the more interesting findings they have achieved. So roll it. Raises the question that did I experience something that was caused by the effect on my brain of this standing wave of sound, or did that standing wave literally open a door to entities or to another world or to whatever is happening? And it's a difficult question to answer, because I asked that question in psychiatric hospitals when I was a graduate student. You know, are these people actually experiencing chemical imbalances in the brain that create the illusions of the worlds of schizophrenia or whatever? Or are they experiencing actual worlds that we don't? And, of course, that would upset all the psychiatrists because, you know, it actually turns everything upside down. But some would come up and say, you know, I've often wondered the same thing, but I wouldn't say it publicly because I would lose my job. So what say you on that?
Well, we have experienced several times that some of our investigators have seen something happen. And at one time, they had a handheld video camera, and they filmed it with the camera. They saw it happen on that little screen on the camera. Mm-hmm. They came out of the house to us and said, we got it now. And we took a look at it, and I mean, there's nothing unusual on that video.
That's happened to me too.
I mean, there were 3 people in there, and they were convinced that they had seen some sort of figure or apparition appear, but there was nothing. So that sort of gives me the idea that, you know, if you are sitting at home watching TV and your neighbor is a radiator and has a high-powered transmitter, he will interfere your television. So if something can send a signal that will interfere with our brain waves, then it might be able to send us pictures, or if we come too close to some sort of membrane, to a parallel world, a signal from there might interfere with our brainwaves and make us think that we see something, and it will be like it happens right before our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, nothing happens.
Sure, even
but it only
happens.
People. Oh yes, and that's the amazing part, that we had 3 people in there watching this, and when they did not talk to each other, they came directly out, and we sort of separated them and took each separate story about what they had seen, and they had seen the same thing happen.
That's exactly what we did in 1971 at my first case that I always talk about, that abandoned village in the state of Connecticut, where there was no one there now, but there had been a village, and you could hear people going about their daily work as if it was 1770 or something like that, and it was quite amazing. Very often we would get things on film, and again, this is 40 years ago when we didn't have the equipment we have today, but you had standard film, and you would get things on film that you couldn't see with the eye, or you would see things with the eye that would not record on film. And in the same way, we had recording equipment, the best of the time, and we heard children laughing. It would not record on the tape, but other things we got on the tape were things we couldn't hear. So as you say, it does raise a number of questions about what sort of experience is occurring. And we had 7 different people who would report, just as you said, similar phenomena from different perspectives in the same place at the same time, although they were in different areas. So certainly there is consistency here, but of course the questions that are raised are far more than the answers that are sometimes gained. So, and I wanted to ask you too now about ley lines. You are a believer in ley lines, I believe, and you use this in research. Could you explain a bit about that?
Oh yes, ley lines. Ley lines are usually lines that goes from, it could be from one holy place to another holy place. In England, they go from one church to maybe another church, or maybe to some old ancient holy place.
Energy lines.
But energy lines, yes. Normally, you would use dowsing rods to find them, or some people can even just use their hands and get the same sort of itch in the hands as you can get from a high EMF field. That sort of tickling in your fingers. Mm-hmm. And in Scandinavia and in Germany, we have divided these lines into different lines. We have a grid that goes around the globe. That's called the Hartmann grid, and it was named after a German doctor who found this. And it will simply go from north to south and from east to west and form a grid. And in Denmark, the space would be around 2.5 to 3 meters in this grid. And then we have another German named Curry, who discovered that there's a different grid that sort of goes from the northeast to the southwest. So it will sometimes cross the Hartmann grid. And we do use dowsing rods to find these, because we have tried with all sorts of different meters, and you're not able to measure it with anything, but it's sort of like your body reacts to it. And I've found that if you have, where these lines cross, if you have a Curry and a Hartmann, or you have 2 Hartmanns or 2 Currys or whatever you have that cross each other, then you will have a higher energy in that place where the lines cross each other. Mm-hmm. And it's not very good to have these. It's under your bed, for instance. If you sleep, and then you might sleep badly, or you might, some people even claim to have gotten diseases from sleeping above these lines. And I guess in the old days, where we had more space to build houses on, they would, first of all, they would always build the houses so you will have them facing north-south. So when you walk out from your door, you would have the sun all day, because we are so high to the north, so the sun comes from the south. And that's a very good way to build your houses, because then you will have the heart lines in your walls, and that gives you more free space inside your building. And but nowadays, they just build houses wherever they want to build them, and they build them. They don't line them up.
Okay, and we will continue our very interesting conversation with Shane Eno of the Paranormal Institute of Denmark when we return to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno here on CBS New Sky Radio, newskyradio.com, and stay with us.
Psychic Radio, psychiconair.com. The wake-up call with Ellen Tom.
Even though I love him and I'm worried about him, it is a blessing in disguise because I'm doing things to help me take better care of me.
Good for you.
Hi, it's Tom Force. Reverend L. Newman and I are here Monday nights, 7 till 9, prime time, Eastern time in the United States, with Wake Up Call on Psychic Radio.
Psychic Radio. We know you're listening. Life is a journey. Let us be your guide. Reach out on the net now, psychiconair.com.
Look for Psychic Radio on your AOL radio player.
How the hell do we wind up like this? Why weren't we able to see the signs that we missed? Try to turn the tables. I wish you'd unclench your fists and unpack your suitcase. Lately there's been too much of this, but don't think it's too late. Nothing's wrong, just as long as you know that someday I will. Someday, somehow, gonna make it alright, but not right now. I know you're wondering where the only one who knows that. Someday, somehow, gonna make it alright, but not right now. I know you're wondering where. I hope that since we're here anyway, we could end up saying things we've always needed to say. So we could end up staying. Now the story's played out like this, just like a paperback novel. Let's rewrite an ending that fits instead of a Hollywood horror. Nothing's wrong, just as long as you know that someday I will. Someday, somehow, gonna make it alright, but not right now. I know you're wondering where the only one who knows that. Someday, somehow, gonna make it alright, but not right now. I know you're wondering where the only one who knows that. How the hell do we wind up like this? Why weren't we able to see the signs that we missed? Try to turn the tables. Now the story's played out like this, just like a paperback novel. Let's rewrite an ending that fits instead of a Hollywood horror. Nothing's wrong, just as long as you know that someday I will. Someday, somehow, gonna make it alright, but not right now. I know you're wondering where the only one who knows that. Someday, somehow, gonna make it alright, but not right now.
Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. New skyradio.com. Believe.
And let's continue our pre-recorded conversation with Shane Eno of the Paranormal Institute of Denmark. Roll it.
They don't line them up. like they used to do north-south.
No.
So today you will have houses who perhaps has curry lines in the walls. And I guess when you work with something, you get more sensitive towards it as the years pass. And many times when we come out to a house, I can almost feel when I enter the house what kind of lines you have in the walls without measuring them, just by feeling it.
Oh, yes.
And it seems like people who live in a curry house calls us more often and have problems in their house.
Interesting.
And that's interesting. And we have discovered that when people say that we have seen something happen in this spot, it's almost 90% of the cases, it's within one of these lines. It could be a ley line, Hartmann, or Torrey, or whatever, but you can find the lines going where people say they saw something. And when I can feel it with my fingers, I feel it's a kind of energy, because I get almost the same sensation from my fingers as I would get from electricity. So it is some sort of energy that we don't know yet, that we don't know how to use. But it seems like whatever it is that we call spirits or ghosts or whatever, they have some sort of knowledge about this energy, because since they move in the lines and they are able to move objects and so on within these lines, that could be that they are using energy from the lines.
Well, that's possible. Personally, I think that many of the phenomena we witness, or at least I've witnessed, the levitations, things of this kind, are much like us walking down the hallway and stirring up the air and papers fall off a desk. I don't know if the entities are actually deliberately doing it, or it's the Hutchison effect sort of thing, where the forces that allow the entities to manifest also will do these other things. But who really knows? That's the thing.
And then, Paul, what really shook us this past year is that we have these digital thermometers where you have a probe, so you are able to measure the temperature in the air, and it's a very advanced instrument, pretty expensive too. Mm-hmm. And one day I was sitting with another investigator in an old house in Sweden, and we tried to make a spirit make the temperature fall. And we started, now we use Celsius here in Europe, mm-hmm. and we started out with around 20 degrees Celsius in the room. And I said, well, let's get it down to maybe 4 degrees Celsius. And, I said that with, I didn't really believe that it was possible. But I sort of, I talked to the spirit. I don't know if the spirit was there or not, but I just said, well, if there's anybody here, try to make the temperature fall. And the temperature started to fall. And then we got another instrument, and it didn't measure any change in the temperature. So,
okay, I guess we're pretty much out of time here, but there wasn't too much left. But we'll pick up at a future point very soon with Shane Eno of the Paranormal Institute of Denmark. No relation to Ben and me, strangely enough. But a lot of interesting things going on in Europe. They seem to be very serious about this, but a lot of people, maybe only 60%, believe in the paranormal and the possibility of the paranormal. So I'm afraid I had to cut it a little early, because I wanted to get to this question that was written to Shane through us from Peter in Colombia, South America. And Peter asks, Shane, can you share any interesting UFO cases you have investigated? And I'll just put in here that having spoken with Shane previously, they don't pay a lot of attention to UFOs. They're primarily a ghost investigation group. However, Shane had something to say about this. Also, Peter continues, have you recorded any EVPs, which may be from World War II soldiers? And if so, what did they say?
What about World War I? Everybody forgets about World War I.
Well, there wasn't too much going on in Denmark in World War One.
Well, yeah, you're right.
All right. Well, anyway, but true. I hope this email, this is from Shane, I hope this email reaches you in time for the show. On the UFO cases, I would say that most of them have been solved as weather phenomena or caused by Chinese party lamps and balloons. I don't know if I go that far, but we don't get that many reports of sightings, and they are almost all explainable. One was of a strange light in the clouds that turned out to be a laser beam over 40 miles away. I remember that. Now, on EVPs, we have been recording EVPs at a memorial and burial site from the Second World War for years. We have gotten EVPs in Danish at that site, both the normal kind and some more related to the actions that took place there. One was saying, stool pigeon, okay, that's a quote. We also got one in German saying something like, we need more Germans here. I don't think the Danes would have agreed, but so in other words, it seems like that the war is still on there. And if our idea about multiple worlds is true, then it certainly is. Someplace. Now there's an addendum to this, which I thought was extremely interesting, that Shane sent regarding EVPs. And a lot of you EVP jockeys out there are going to be interested in this. By the way, Paul, the latest news here is that we bought a 20-foot cabin cruiser and plan to head out to sea this coming winter and spring to try to investigate if one can record EVP under the water. We have many old wrecks from 1,000 years of battles at sea. Will we encounter ghost sensations at sea? We hope to give a report to you about it next spring. That sounds interesting. As a former member of the Coast Guard here in the U.S., I don't know if I'd head out into the Baltic Sea in a 20-foot boat in the winter, but I'm sure Shane knows what he's doing. So we'll be very interested in hearing about that project in the spring.
That
all
sounds
right.
interesting.
So what do you think of all that, Ben?
Well, the boat thing's pretty cool, and you know what? Yeah, give it a try. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, try anything once, because we sometimes hope to hold on to our old ideas or new ideas or whatever ideas, but we always have to be open-minded, I think, about all these different things. And Shane is kind of a breath of fresh air. He kind of mixes the old with the new, and there are a lot of people who disagree with the ley line theory.
Yeah.
That is controversial. Anyway, let's just finish up here.
All right, so, and with that, podcasts of all our shows are available at newskyradio.com or at our show website, behindtheparanormal.com.
All right, and many thanks to our producer, Will Kosnick. We'll see you right here next week. Sunday, February, for what? No, Sunday, what's next week? The 25th of July.
Yep.
At 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, and we will be very happy to welcome back our old friend, British author and paranormal expert, Cassandra Eason, author of 82 books, to talk about psychic kids.
So in the meantime, check out our Monday drive time show at 6 a.m. Eastern. And
No. This is we've been sabotaged here. Monday drive time show at 6 p.m. Eastern.
6 p.m. Eastern, and then what?
3 Pacific, WOON,
right.
1240 a.m. in southeastern New England. And when we promise, we will be more organized.
Yes, and then you can hear our Saturday shows at 7 p.m. Eastern and 4 Pacific right here on CBS Psychic Radio.
That rebroadcast. And we leave you with a quote from that old sweetheart, Albert Einstein. Intellectual growth should commence at birth and cease only at death.
See you next week.